Hola amigos de cine, les cuento que tuve la oportunidad de conversar con Lauren LeFranc, la showrunner de la producción de El Pingüino, serie que ya se estrenó. Si están viendo este video es porque ya se estrenó y ya puedo compartirles esta entrevista. Es una serie que está cautivando a la audiencia, a los críticos, está recibiendo muy buenas opiniones, opiniones muy positivas por parte de los críticos y seguramente no sé, no he revisado en este momento, para este momento no he revisado si la audiencia ya está compartiendo sus impresiones, pero seguramente estará recibiendo muy buenas opiniones también por parte de la audiencia. Yo ya tuve la oportunidad de ver la serie, aquí les cuento mis primeras impresiones sin spoilers. Entonces nada, aquí quiero compartirles esta increíble conversación que tuve con Lauren LeFranc. Conversamos un poco acerca de este personaje tan complejo que es el pingüino, pero tan interesante que es aquí en la serie. O sea, lo que vieron en la película de The Batman no se compara en lo que verán de El Pingüino en esta producción. Entonces, nada, aquí les comparto esa conversación. Hello, Lauren. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you doing?
Good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Well, I would like to start by saying congratulations for this amazing show. I have the opportunity to watch the full season, and I love that the show doesn't feel like fiction or fantasy. It feels very real, and it's very scary to feel that when you are watching that kind of show. And of course, Colin Farrell as the Penguin is perfect. So I would like to know if that was like the intention with the show, like to make that feel more real than fantasy than fiction.
Well, thank you for saying that. Yes, definitely it was. I wanted to make sure that we kept things very grounded. The Gotham City that Matt established in his Batman film feels very real in that way. And we had the opportunity to spend 8 hours more in Gotham City. And so it was really important to have you feel like Oz is a real man and he's a gangster, so he's a little larger than life in that regard, but he's relatable in that way too, because that's what gangsters are.
Mhm.
And we're following just a very peculiar, ambitious, volatile, combative, funny man throughout the course of 8 episodes.
Yeah, he's very. I mean, he's a very interesting character, and I love what Colin did with the Penguin. I know a big inspiration for creating the show was Tony Montana, Scarface. What special thing you saw in Scarface led you to create this Penguin adaptation?
Well, I think the main thing about Tony Montana is that he's an underdog, that people discount him and don't see value in him and don't think that he should or is deserving of power. That's, I think, the heart of that comparison. Beyond that, Oz is a very different character. He's impulsive in moments, but also very calculated. He's charming and engaging. And yet makes terrible choices and very alarming choices. So there's this duality in him that I think is really intriguing. It makes him really fun and complicated to write for. And yet beyond that, I think tonally we sort of are in more of the vein of Goodfellas, in that it's a little bit, the intention at least is to have it be a thrilling ride. And a bit fun in moments, and then surprisingly emotional and surprisingly violent.
Yeah, no, and for sure you can see all that in the show, and I love that. Well, my next question is about the origin of the penguin. We know in comics this character has different origins. What was the motivation for going with the origin we saw in the show?
Well, to me, I wanted to make sure that I could emotionally connect with a character like him, that I knew that I could write for someone like him. And I personally find, an underdog story and a story about someone who comes from less and is seeking something more for themselves, more relatable to me than, in the comics, he came from a very wealthy family. His name meant something. I thought it was very important to have his name mean nothing. It made him driving more to want that and more desirous of that. And then it made a lot of sense to me to have his mom be a single mother, to have him come from a poor community where he's really been struggling, and to have his emotional drive connected to her affection and her love, that felt like there was something rich there.
No, and I think that was perfect because we can see that like in that journey the penguin has during all the season, during all these episodes, you can see this development of this character. Yeah, and it was very, very good. Well, in this show, there are not good people, just bad people in this show. In some way you can, but in some way you can connect and feel something for the penguin. And I think the penguin is the worst. He's a monster. But you, as an audience, and when you are watching this show, you want that the penguin succeed. And also Victor tried to sell the penguin as a good person because he was doing good things for the people who lost everything in Gotham.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this show can lead the character to become an anti-hero?
You know, I definitely don't view Oz as an anti-hero. And I don't see people as heroes or villains in our show either, just because it's intended to feel honest and people are just complicated. But yes, no one on our show is inherently a good person. I would say Victor has great heart and he does see the best in people. And we see that he comes from a loving family and he had just a more, normal upbringing in that way than some of our other characters who had very traumatic pasts. And yet not saying that the traumatic past makes excuses for any of them. I think, characters like this are so complicated and so complex, and that's what makes them interesting. And my hope is that, everyone's going to walk away with their own intent or what their own interpretation of Oz is. Do they think what he has done is justified? I think every person has good aspects of them. And I think when Oz speaks a level of truth about things, he believes it in that moment. But ultimately, he believes most in himself and serving himself. And so, I don't know, I think the most treacherous people in the world oftentimes speak a lot of honesty. They speak about things that are relatable, that many of us can connect with. A lot of what Oz talks about is this distorted American dream. And I think that feels very real and palpable for a lot of people. And yet there's a darkness underneath it, and his intentions aren't as positive as someone like Victor really suspects they are. So I think that's what keeps it interesting and hopefully a little different and very relevant to the world today.
Well, Lauren, thank you so much for sharing about the show. I love it. I really love it. And well, I wish you the best with this production.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for watching.
Bye. Have a good day.
You too.